Japan is a land of contrasts, contrasts of landscape and climate. The country lies in the temperate monsoon area. Winters are cold in the north, but it is warm throughout most of the year in the south. The Japanese archipelago stretches 1,500 miles from the northeast to the southwest and consists of nearly 3,000 island units. The four major islands are Hokkaido, Honshu, the largest island, Shikoku, and Kyushu. What is the nature of this small, overburdened land, which must support over 95 million people? Typhoons lash in from the sea, bringing floods and massive destruction. Mountains pushed up from the sea by volcanic action still churn and burn inside. More earthquakes are recorded in Japan than anywhere else in the world. The Japanese islands are but the tops of an undersea mountain range, which rims the Pacific. The same forces which created the mountains of Japan also built the Andes, 8,000 miles away in South America. From beneath the surface, little mineral wealth can be extracted, only very limited quantities of the basic metals and oil. Japan is extremely poor in the natural resources which an industrial nation needs. Forests, which cover 2/3 of the land, are among the few important natural resources. But many are not commercially useful or are inaccessible, and Japan must even import a great deal of lumber and pulpwood. Rivers and the abundant rainfall which feeds them are perhaps the most important natural gifts. The rivers are generally short, mostly unnavigable, but invaluable for the hydroelectric power they provide. Only 15% of the land is useful for agriculture, and the amount of level land on which to raise food is so scarce that in the past famine was always a threat. The land available to feed the population is only 1.5 times the size of the United Kingdom. The pressure on this land is enormous. Literally every square inch is intensely cultivated. A farm village is called a buraku. Niiki buraku, 24 houses clustered against the hillside, is typical of a Japanese agricultural community. Over 80% of all Japanese farmers now own and work their own fields, the average holding limited by law to about 2.5 acres. The farm population has declined dramatically in recent years. In 1953, over half the people of Japan were farmers. Now, with population shifting rapidly to the cities, fewer than 30% remain on the land. By 1970, the government expects that only 11% will still work in agriculture. Rice is by far the most important crop. Over half of Japan's cultivated land is in paddy. The paddies of Niiki will yield 2 tons of rice per acre. Rice growing demands vast amounts of hard hand labor and is not readily adaptable to mechanization. Mechanization, however, has come to Japan. The mechanization of rice agriculture in Asia is one of the greatest revolutions in the history of man. Japan has led the way. Tractors like this and other machines are now in common use. One tractor can do the work of 10 families and 10 work cows, dramatically reducing the number of farmers needed to feed the nation. Large-scale mechanization, however, seems impractical until the size of the farming unit can be substantially increased. Much of the work on the Japanese farms still must be done by hand. Mechanization and widespread use of improved fertilizers and chemicals have helped achieve a major breakthrough in agriculture. Traditionally, the Japanese have always had to depend upon imports. They were never able to produce enough food to feed themselves. But now the Japanese farmer is providing virtually enough for the country's needs. In the orchards of Niiiki, each single fruit is individually cared for. The patience, hard work and innate skill of the Japanese farmer enables Japan to feed herself for the first time and even face surpluses in many commodities. Government agricultural research stations have contributed toward Japan's achieving the highest productivity per acre of any nation. The Japanese are world leaders in plant genetics. Here, botanists develop new and improved varieties of fruits and vegetables. All-important rice receives the most intensive experimentation. Experiments aimed at increasing yield still further, at squeezing the last possible kernel of rice from the land. Mulberry trees grow on the hillsides. In the spring, branches are gathered several times a day to feed the silkworms, which will eat only mulberry leaves. Once each year, the worms spin their cocoons of silk and die. Income from the sale of silk is important to many farmers. Women do much the same work as men. Dairy and beef cattle have replaced bullocks, and work cows are no longer needed, now that tractors do their work. Milk and milk products, once seldom used, have grown very popular in recent years. The women sometimes gather in the evening. Traditionally, woman's place was in the home and fields. She was expected to be passive, submissive, and completely forgetful of self. While there is still little opportunity for the countrywoman to engage in activities outside her home and village, she now enjoys an increasing amount of freedom. Children are expected to study. They are assigned homework at quite a young age and work until late at night. Children attend school 6 days a week. 12 years of free education is provided. The first 9 years are compulsory by law. One school serves several burakus like Niiiki. Over 99% of the people of Japan can read and write, a higher percentage than that in Great Britain or the United States. In Niiiki, at least half the men leave the village to work at part-time jobs outside, since they're unable to earn a living solely from the land. A nearby fish farm employs several farmers. Raising fish in artificial ponds can be as profitable a use of land as growing crops. Eels are considered a great delicacy. Fish is more important to the Japanese diet than to that of any other country. Eaten at nearly every meal, fish largely replaces meat as a source of animal protein. Fish and rice are the two staple foods which Japan cannot live without. Many farmers are also fishermen. Some of the best fishing grounds in the world lie off the Japanese coast. The sea is another of Japan's few great natural assets. Thousands of fishing villages nestle against the mountains along 17,000 miles of coastline. Japan has the world's largest fishing fleet, 400,000 boats, most of them small. Over 500,000 fishermen bring in 6 million tons of fish a year, the largest catch of any nation in the world. Almost 3/4 of this catch is made by small boats fishing the coastal waters. Every method of catching fish known to man is used by Japanese fishermen. nets are lowered as the boat is sculled along. Both boat and net will drift with the current for several hours. If the fishing is not good, boats will often join together to pass the time, to wait for a change of tide. When the nets are raised, they may contain a good catch of mackerel, or only a few squid or octopus. A poor catch like this may mean days at sea, searching for better grounds. When Saburo Nakagawa returns to his village, there must be fish to sell. In the village of Takameji, some families divide their time between fishing and farming. Others, like the Nakagawas, depend completely upon the sea for their livelihood. Michiko, wife of Saburo Nakagawa, comes to greet her husband, home from the sea. The fish are taken directly to the market to be sold. Only the cheapest and least desirable are kept by the fishermen themselves. Early each morning, there is an auction in Takameji, attended by shopkeepers and buyers from the cities. Deep-sea vessels, the whale and tuna ships, remain at sea for 2, even 3 years at a time, carrying the Japanese flag to the oceans of the world. Hundreds of relatives and friends of the crew turn out for the departure of a whaler. The people of Japan, the people of the cities, of the sea, and of the land, have accomplished much. This land they live on imposes many hardships. It offers little. In spite of this, Japan has managed to build the first modern nation in Asia. Its people already rich beyond the dreams of most of Asia's millions. Still, there is much to be done to bring the Japanese living standard up to that of the West. With each passing year, there is progress, a rate of material progress unequaled anywhere in the world. A poor agricultural country has almost transformed itself overnight into the highly complex industrial nation that is the new Japan. The resourceful, imaginative people of Japan, who are themselves their country's most valuable natural asset, can be proud of their achievements.